Our next speaker is poet and publisher Peter Fallon. At the tender age of 18, he set up the Gallery Press. He moved down to Loughcrew, just outside Oldcastle in Meath, to become a farmer. He farmed sheep for 15 years, and he published some of the biggest names in Irish writing. And he's gonna do a reading. He's feeling, as I say, very much out of his comfort zone. But I reassure him. I've read his poetry, and it is wonderful. And he's going to do a reading, and he's also going to talk a little bit about a life in writing and a life in farming. So, Peter Fallon, thank you.
Thank you. That did indeed need to be said. When Catherine asked if I would come and speak and read some poems, I did say, "Are you sure about this?" She said she was, and I said, "Don't blame me." When I returned to live permanently in the countryside of North County Meath, a hen's race from my home place, my uncle's farm near Kells, while I was still an undergraduate at Trinity College in this city, I sensed that I wanted to shape a life around the poems I was trying to write, the books of poems and plays by other writers I'd begun to publish under the imprint The Gallery Press, and an active engagement with farming in and around an old house I'd found in Loughcrew. And for most of the 80s and 90s, I raised sheep and tried to build a flock to my liking. But all the while I was aware, of course, that I was entering a tradition of 20th century Irish poetry that included writers like Patrick Kavanagh, John Montague, Seamus Heaney, whose work reflected a childhood on farms and in rural communities. But what for them was recollection, I trusted for me would be an ongoing practice and participation and experience. Their subject would be a reimagination of the past. I would attempt to record a present. And attracted as I was to the element that seemed to suit me, I was alert always to the truth of Wordsworth's lines in his poems on Tintern Abbey, his knowing that nature never did betray the heart that loved her. Despite such reassurance, I felt somewhat alone in Ireland, in my undertaking and endeavor. In England, Ted Hughes was writing the poems that are called his Moortown Diary. But my true affinities and allegiances were with writers in America, where the thinking, the conversation, the awareness seemed more advanced. And I mean people like Gary Snyder, Donald Hall, and above all, my dear friend and hero, Wendell Berry. I took hope from my correspondence and conversations with them, both in the United States and in Loughcrew, despite the assaults on that hope, as I remembered an earlier writer, the Scots-American naturalist, John Muir, who died just 101 years ago, and who has become the patron saint of wilderness. What he wrote was once true, I'm sure, though now I have my doubts about it, and that is, earth hath no sorrows that earth cannot heal. Allow me please to read two poems from my book, Strong My Love. 2 years ago, I spent a year in residence teaching at Boston College. It was, you'll remember, a punishing winter, and I wrote these lines in some sort of helpful, distant sympathy. A winter wound. Tears in his eyes. From an east wind, and ice rain, and surely more sinned against than sinning. He stared as the bullocks turned back to confront a bare stall. Had even the frosts not burned the leaves from the briars? In all the years that he remembers, there was never the like, with its 4 Novembers and the 2 or 3 Januaries, when any weathers switch or swerve bore more adversaries. I've known those nights, up at the lambing, snow-blind, when you'd search for what you hoped you wouldn't find. I've seen those gaunt beasts haunt the marts, felt the heart sink of false starts in the low moans of livestock, known the hurt hope of herd and flock, and heard his spirit say, "This will not end, not soon or in a time to come, because it happened." And I finish with a poem called Light in the Sorrow Field. And I thank you for the invitation and for your attention. She tilled and toiled in her own sorrow field, and found that grief's a place none knows till it's revealed by entering it. That there'd be joys of night, she stored the gems of waking hours and prayed to see morning's delight. A widow woman, not like the bird in constant fright and flight from hawks by day and owls by failing light. She reckoned earth and knew demise of cowslips between hedgerow and silage strips, a preview of apocalypse. What once were farms, she'd say, are now food factories. Between hay and harvest time, the wheels of years accelerate till winter changes gears and they capitulate. More like the hare, field faring and following its holy orders, to lie low, true to form, to be itself within the borders of what's now, that she sees through gap or gate, and though the wind cuts like a knife, tells, go, long-lugged, long-legged one, run for fun, run for your life.